Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. Today we've got a full slate of updates to break down for you. This is the 124th episode of Hawks Latest presented by FanArt, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the ride. I know I have, but like I said, a whole lot to break down today because the Atlanta Hawks have had quite the roller coaster this past week. There's been a whole lot going on. Actually, a lot happened over the weekend that we really have to break down today. I mean, from injuries to key starters, I mean, there's been a few of those, so we got to talk about all of that. A tough loss to Toronto and an inspiring comeback, not comeback, but bounce back win against none other than Luka Doncic and the Los Angeles Lakers. This team continues to show flashes of both potential and resilience. Tonight, we're going to take I say tonight, just out of instinct, but today, because y'all are obviously seeing this in the morning, we're going to take a closer look at Friday's loss against the Toronto Raptors that we didn't get the chance to break down here on the channel because last video was out on Friday. We'll highlight Jalen Johnson's growing responsibilities. He is kind of forming into the role that we've always known he can, grow into, but now it's all coming together. And, we also have an update on Jalen Johnson's injury. He's one of the guys that kind of suffered a little bit of an injury, so we're going to break down what's kind of to be expected from him moving forward regarding that injury. But yeah, just talk about other than the injury, talk about his growing responsibilities and how he has really blossomed as more of a point forward. Recap Atlanta's big win over the Los Angeles Lakers, a very important one when we start to consider momentum and standings at the end of the season. It was an awesome win, and it actually happened 2 nights ago. I mean, super fun. Definitely one of the most electric moments inside State Farm, other than the Desmond Bane versus Onyeka Okongwu whole scenario that happened before these two games in that game against the Magic, which was the first of 3 in a row at home. And then at the end, we're going to discuss Zachary Rizashay's resurgence after an early season slump. I mean, he kind of struggled at the beginning of the year, but he has seriously gotten it together. He's playing some of the best ball of his career. So that's super exciting. And also the Hawks are in action tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers. It's actually the first game of their road trip. They had a little road trip, and then they were back at home for 3 games, and then now that they've got another road trip that we're about to go on. And this is actually the first West Coast trip of the season. So stay tuned for a quick little recap of that. We're not going to go whole in-depth into that because we've got a lot to cover that happened over the weekend. So without further ado, let's waste no more time and go ahead and jump right into it. Start with the Atlanta Hawks and talking about how them dropping their second matchup of the season against the Toronto Raptors on Friday night was pretty deflating. They fell 109-97 at home. Toronto actually rallied from a 13-point deficit to secure their 4th straight victory and 2nd consecutive win in NBA Cup group play. This was Atlanta's second game of the NBA Cup group play, and so they did not perform as well as they did in that first one. That first one for Atlanta was actually against the Indiana Pacers, the very shorthanded Indiana Pacers. So that win kind of came as no surprise, but it was one of the first games without Trae Young. He suffered that right MCL sprain that's going to keep him sidelined for up to a month, and so Atlanta got the chance to kind of feel out Indiana and see how their offense was going to look, and they looked good. But this second NBA Cup game was not as good. Brandon Ingram had actually led the Raptors with 20 points, and Ingram always kind of shows out against the Hawks. He doesn't usually have a very difficult time getting to his spots, especially in the mid-range, and Ingram has always been a pretty underrated shooter from the outside, so he had kind of had his way with Atlanta. He's not someone that's going to have like a Dyson Daniels on him, so it's a bit of an awkward matchup for Atlanta, and Ingram once again capitalized. He had a good game in the first game of the season because Atlanta actually took on Toronto in opening night, and then this second matchup, so now Toronto actually leads the series against the Atlanta Hawks 2-0, and so that might come down to bite Atlanta towards the end of the season. RJ Barrett, the guard / forward who they acquired from the New York Knicks, he added on another quiet performance. He had 19, and quiet but effective performance because the 19 points were very critical, crucial in terms of getting Toronto back into the game and then ultimately taking over in the fourth quarter. Emmanuel Quickley, he scored 18 points, and Scotty Barnes recorded a double-double with 14 points and 10 rebounds. So a true all-around effort for the Toronto Raptors that saw them picking up up the huge victory against the Atlanta Hawks. And yeah, fourth straight win. So, and this isn't included in the win streak because, they played Atlanta in game 1 of the season. And so they actually, after that, they lost several in a row. And so then now they're good and they're getting in stride and they've been awesome. I mean, they're a pretty good transition team, very awkward shooting team, but I kind of like what they can be if they reach their full potential. And they are starting to. I mean, they've looked great recently. For Atlanta, Jalen Johnson once again led the way with 21.7 rebounds and 4 assists. In next segment, we are going to break down Johnson's game and how this was a really encouraging one for him, despite the fact that at the end of the game, he kind of came up limping, and we're going to discuss that in a little bit. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the guy who really has been in a completely new role this season than he's ever experienced, and he's been doing a great job at contributing in that role, but he added on another 20 points. And Kristaps Porzingis, Atlanta's stretch big that they acquired in the offseason, he added 17. The Hawks are now 1-1 in NBA Cup group play in their Group A. And they were once again without their all-star guard Trae Young in this game against Toronto, and this is going to be a common theme over the next month or maybe even more because, as we all know, he is sidelined with that sprained right MCL. The team also was without Nikola Jurisic and actually Luke Kennard. This was the first of 2 games in a row that Kennard missed, and Atlanta definitely misses his presence out there because you do lose a good bit of shooting and a little bit of ball handling. And so Atlanta down really down the stretch in that game, they had no one to create the offense. And I mean, Nickeil and Jalen do a fine job at it, but no one as a real initiator. And yeah, this really killed Atlanta in the end of the game. This pretty much sealed it for Toronto because they were up a good bit, and then the fourth quarter was where it really all unraveled for the Hawks. So yeah, like I said, without their 2 best perimeter playmakers, the offensive flow looked stagnant at times. Actually, a whole lot in that second half. They looked surprisingly good in that first half. I mean, they looked pretty dominant. It was looking like Atlanta was going to pick up their second consecutive win, but they did not. They held control most of the night. Things seriously fell apart late. Toronto actually closed the game on an 18-2 run, flipping what had been, a complete back-and-forth contest into a decisive Raptors victory. I mean, there was no doubt in the last 2 minutes that they were going to win, and they were going to win by a pretty wide margin. Quinn Snyder acknowledged after the game that, fatigue and lineup instability have been challenges, and it's been very hard to adjust to that, especially this early into the season when you're trying to develop chemistry and kind of build culture. But he praised the team's fight. This is a thing that's going to take a little bit of time, and I like the way they're kind of still fighting. But yeah, Toronto was just a very bad matchup for them. Maybe in general, I mean, maybe this is just going to be Atlanta's kryptonite this season because both of these games have looked pretty lopsided. The fight was visible in one player specifically, and it was visible in a good bit of guys, but one player specifically in that game against Toronto was really good, and he was the one keeping Atlanta afloat late, and he was in a new role, the thing we kind of talked about earlier, because Atlanta really needed a primary offensive initiator in that fourth quarter, and they got it a little bit in Jalen Johnson. So with Trae Young sidelined and Luke Kennard out, 2 guys who have the ball in their hands a good bit, whether that's in the starting lineup or in the second unit like Luke Kennard is, the Hawks needed someone to step into a playmaking role because while Nickeil has been good at it, and while maybe some of these other guys like Daniels or Keaton Wallace have been okay at it, they needed someone else. They needed someone with more scoring firepower and facilitating firepower, and that guy was Jalen Johnson. He answered the call. In this game against Toronto specifically, he was very good. He got off to a strong start. He logged 8 points, 3 rebounds, and a steal in the first quarter. His aggressiveness was truly notable. I mean, especially with the ball in his hands. I mean, he was giving Atlanta some early momentum. He was not hesitating on the drive. I mean, he was looking confident in his 3-point jumper. And with facilitating, that expanded responsibility, while it's produced some good minutes, it also comes with some growing pains. And it certainly came with some of those growing pains in Friday night's loss against Toronto. In that second quarter, Johnson turned the ball over 4 times. He was definitely taking some more risks in his playmaking. And so, definitely was not a very pretty second quarter for Johnson. Definitely one of the worst quarters I've seen from him in recent memory. But the overall theme of this second segment is positive, because the way Johnson bounced back was remarkable. I mean, this game was not about perfection. It was about progress. And, seeing how Toronto's defense collapsed on him and him still being able to be effective on both ends of the floor, because this was one of the better defensive games we've seen from him, because I've been critical of Johnson's defense so far this season, but I had no complaints after the game against Toronto. And so Jalen is seriously evolving before our eyes. What began especially out of the draft when he was selected 20th overall out of Duke, he was kind of seen as a forward who thrived in transition, definitely more of a play finisher. I mean, he's quickly transforming into an all-around offensive initiator who is still pretty good on the defensive end. He's getting it together. He was always going to get it together on the defensive end, but with that added offensive responsibility, I can at least see why that specific part of his game has taken a little bit of a hit. I mean, his handle is looking a whole lot better than it has in recent years. That was definitely one of the parts of his game that was kind of holding him back from being a primary initiator, because his handle was loose and he turned the ball over a lot. And in this game, I did mention that he turned the ball over a lot, specifically in the second quarter when he was taking a lot of risks, but that was not due to his handle being loose or anything. It wasn't like DeJounte Murray turnovers. This was simply because he was just kind of leading guys on passes and not doing it too well. He was taking risks. I mean, he was trying to kind of do similar things to what Young usually does, and stuff like that really makes you appreciate how great of a playmaker Trey is, because it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do, and while Jalen can try and replicate it, there's really no one in the NBA that is facilitating at that high of a rate like Trey is. I mean, you can make the argument for Doncic, you can make the argument for Jokic. Other than that, it's probably Trae Young. I don't see anyone else really in that tier. I'm not talking about efficiency. I'm not talking about true impact on the game, but I'm talking about in terms of pure creating offense for others. Trey's right there among all of those. He might be the best at that. But I mean, Jalen's handle now and his confidence and his versatility, it's really making him a unique weapon in Quinn Snyder's system, specifically moving forward. And so, after that rough second quarter, he immediately came out in halftime, and his shot started falling again, and he wasn't turning the ball over nearly as much, and he was much more impactful on both ends of the floor. You could feel the momentum shift. He actually has been really struggling from three-point range this season, and it hasn't been a super long season, so we can't kind of judge him too much for that, because he's still getting adjusted to the new lineup, the chemistry, and really just playing with all of these new teammates. But I mean, the three-point shot has been really bad, but he got it together in this game, specifically in this third quarter against the Toronto Raptors. He knocked down 2 threes, which actually pushed Atlanta's lead back into double digits. Atlanta was up by double digits in that third quarter. Even when Toronto rallied and definitely got back into that lead and eventually, made it to the point where Atlanta couldn't come back. Johnson was really the guy who was mostly continuing to battle. He had a clutch and one that momentarily reignited the Hawks' hopes. I mean, it got the crowd back into it, because that's the thing about the Atlanta crowd. Like when State Farm Arena is at its peak, this is a very loud crowd. It's one of the better venues in the entire NBA in terms of crowd noise and crowd pops and stuff like that. But when the other team goes on a little bit of a run, I mean, the crowd just gets super deflated and it's almost completely silent. And we can't really have that, but I understand why it happens, because it was a deflating Toronto run. But that and one from Jalen specifically late in the game got him back into it, because it looked like, okay, Atlanta could maybe come back, but they ended up not coming back. Despite the final result, Johnson's 21-point outing underscored his development, as he continues to adapt to increased offensive responsibility. Hawks fans should remain optimistic about his long-term growth. I know I am. He's proving that with time, Atlanta can thrive even when its stars are sidelined. And this was very, very evident in this next game that I'm about to talk about, the one that actually happened 2 nights ago, when the Atlanta Hawks, less than 24 hours later, bounced back in dominant fashion against none other than Luka Doncic and the Los Angeles Lakers, behind a career-high 21 points from Mohamed Gay, who was absolutely dominant on both ends of the floor. He had the career-high 21 points. He also, brought in 7 rebounds and dished out 7 assists and was just awesome on the defensive end. I mean, literally flying around the court. Definitely the most impactful player on both ends of the floor for either team. More impactful than Luka Doncic, and I don't think that was particularly close. That might be a little controversial, but Luka was really hurting his team last night, despite, two nights ago, despite, the stat sheet looking pretty decent. And it was a very impressive all-around performance from Dyson Daniels as well. But Atlanta defeated the Los Angeles Lakers 122-102. So a nice 20-point victory with everyone sidelined. And when I say everyone, I mean legitimately everyone. Despite being without 5 of their top 8 rotation guys. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. They were literally down 5 of their top 8 rotation guys. They were down Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, and Kristaps. Wow, let me slow it down. Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, Kristaps Porzingis, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Luke Kennard. They were all out. That is 5 of their top 8. They were also down Jurasic, who obviously is not in the rotation, but that's still another body who is not there available to suit up. But, despite all that, and this was most certainly a trap game for the Lakers because, all these young guys, they wanted it. They wanted the win much more than this kind of older LA team did. They came out firing. They actually led by 17 after the first quarter, and they never looked back. Opening up a 30-point lead by the third quarter. Their largest third quarter advantage against the Lakers since 1959. Just pure domination on both ends of the floor, and it ended up giving Atlanta the victory. Dyson Daniels was phenomenal. He was looking great in kind of a point guard role. Alexander Walker is getting this, the start at point guard technically in all of these games that Trae has been out, but if you really watch the game, Dyson is definitely on the ball a good bit more, especially in terms of facilitating for others. They're kind of trying to force Nah into that, at least for the early parts of the game, but Daniels has kind of taken over more naturally. And game by game, he's gotten an increased playmaking role, and he's been awesome. But he had 10 points, 8 rebounds, and a career-high 13 assists. Dyson's looking like Trae out there, just without like the kind of threat from half court. He's not getting picked up at half court like Trae usually is. But yeah, the playmaking was great. He also extended his steal streak to 62 games, which is a new franchise record. Dyson now has the longest streak in Atlanta Hawks history for at least getting 1 steal in a game. That is awesome. That is great stuff from Dyson. It doesn't surprise me. Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't get that last year. But yeah, he now stands alone. He passed the second place, and now he is in first for that. And I don't expect that streak to end anytime soon. It's going to be kind of like Trae's streak that actually ended last year of his consecutive games with 5+ assists. That I forgot what the total number was on that, but that was super fun to keep up with. And yeah, I don't see a game passing anytime soon that Dyson Daniels does not record a steal. He's the great barrier thief. That's his thing, and he steals the ball, and he's amazing at it, but that's not everything that makes him special as a defender or as a player in general, because as you see, he's a very underrated playmaker and also just continuing to develop as a scorer. But yeah, this was exactly the kind of win that the Hawks needed, just a dominant win without literally all of your guys. It's proof that their depth can carry them through adversity. Atlanta was very much praised for their ability to bring in depth this offseason, and that was on full display. But a lot of these contributions were from guys that were either internally with the squad or, we got from the draft. Players like Mohamed Gay, Dyson Daniels, and Zachary Riesachet, they all stepped up. Even Asa Newell, who had he got like his second game with real rotation minutes. He had that one game against the Magic where he made his NBA debut. It was that first matchup against the Magic, and he was very clutch. He's catching some lobs from Trae and just looking like an effective big. But he only played 4 minutes, and he had 4 points in that game. In that second game he played against OKC Thunder, he was much more effective. He actually had 12 points and 10 rebounds. But in this game against the Los Angeles Lakers, he had 17 points. And he's just continuing to let it fly from deep. He looks super comfortable out there setting screens and getting open looks. I couldn't be more impressed with Asa Newell so far in his young NBA career. He's only technically played like 2 games with real minutes, but in those minutes, he is looking like a legit NBA rotation player, and he looks much more comfortable than any other rookie the Hawks have drafted in a long time. The fact that he is literally 20 years old and he just looks that comfortable out there. He looks like a seasoned vet, and that's not an exaggeration. His confidence out there is ridiculous. He is getting up and finishing some putbacks and also also, I mean, literally his three-point shot volume has been ridiculous. And a lot of people didn't believe in that three-point shot from Mason Newell developing into a quality one in the NBA. I always did, and that's kind of what I think separated Asa from a lot of these prospects and why Atlanta was so drawn to him, because that three-point shot is real. I think we've seen it over enough of a sample size to go ahead and determine that shot is real. The form is great, and he's letting it fly with confidence, and he's hitting at an efficient rate. But yeah, I mean, all of these guys stepped up, giving fans a glimpse of what the future could look like for Atlanta's next generation of players, regardless of what happens with some of these vets like Porzingis after his one-year deal, Kennard after this one-year deal runs up, and also, I mean, Trae Young, who the Atlanta Hawks did not extend, and, they're looking okay without him. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to be like, oh, this team's better without Trae, because they're absolutely not. I mean, they get significantly worse offensively. They maybe get a little bit better defensively, but this is not sustainable play, I would say, especially at this point in the season, at this point in a lot of these young Hawks careers. We could be better without Trae down the line, but that's not the reality right now, especially for this season. So I'm very interested to see how they all look when he comes back and things start to gel. It's also pushed the Hawks, this win specifically, it pushed the Hawks back to 500 on the year. They're now 5-5 through 10 games. And you know what? I think that's great. I mean, if you consider their schedule and how they've looked and the injuries and the illnesses and the players being sidelined that they have dealt with just through 10 games, the fact that they are 5-5 with this extremely difficult schedule is extremely impressive. And it gives me a whole lot of confidence for later in the season. Once again, when we have everyone healthy, we have Trae healthy, and that should be in about a month or so, but we don't really know when he's going to come back. And so I'm very excited about the future of the Atlanta Hawks. And so they're heading into their next matchup tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers, the Unk Clippers, the really old Clippers. I think they're I think their average age is over 30, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And they've also got former Hawks, John Collins and Bogdan Bogdanovic. So, good to see them back on the court. It'll be a fun little reunion. Hopefully that results in an Atlanta win, but it's going to be the start of their first West Coast trip of the season. So the game's going to be, at the time of this recording, honestly, I don't remember. It's either 10 or 10:30 p.m. So for us here on the East Coast, so if you're a real one, you'll stay up and you'll watch it with me, and then we'll have the full breakdown the very next day. So yeah, that's going to be what we get tonight, and so I'm excited to see how they look after an impressive win against the Los Angeles Lakers. Take out both LA teams in the span of 3 days. I think that would be awesome for momentum and also just for team chemistry. So now we're going to move on to our final segment, which is going to kind of be centered around another one of those young guys who has been very impressive, not just in the absence of Trae Young, but just really in general these past few games and getting Atlanta some of these wins. Zachary Rizashay, and perhaps the most encouraging storyline for the Atlanta Hawks over these past few days, just one of these recent storylines, has been the resurgence of the second-year forward Zachary Rizashay after a slow start to the season, which, I mean, yeah, it was a slow start. Legitimately, like very much struggled in the beginning of the year. Last year's number one overall pick is starting to find his rhythm again. In 3 straight games, he's been incredible. On both ends of the floor. He's been one of Atlanta's more consistent, reliable players on good volume, on good quality volume. Through his first few games, Rizashay was struggling. Like I said, he averaged just 9.4 points per contest on 42% shooting, which is, both of those are down from last year. I mean, definitely an efficiency dip and also a little bit of a dip in scoring. But over these past 3 outings, he's rediscovered the confidence that made him one of Europe's most promising young stars before entering the NBA, and which what ultimately led him going first overall to the Atlanta Hawks just before last year. He that was one of the biggest things in his rookie year. He wasn't scared to let it fly. He looked up for the challenge every single game, and he kind of didn't really look like that in the first few games of the season of this year because he's someone who he had a full offseason of playing, but also getting adjusted to a new look, contending team in your second year. It could take a minute to get accustomed to, but he's got accustomed to it. He's been awesome. He began this remarkable turnaround against the Orlando Magic, which was the first of 3 home games. He scored 21 points on efficiency efficient shooting to lead the Hawks to a much-needed divisional win. That was a very fun game just from start to finish. I mean, Atlanta killed Orlando. It was one of the two dominant wins Atlanta had over this 3-game home stretch. And, that was also the game where Desmond Bane just ripped Onyeka Okongwu down and volleyball spiked the ball on his head, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Very warranted ejection. Very fun game. I mean, just in general. But yeah, Riza Shea was kind of like the guy in that game. I mean, I think he led the Hawks in scoring. He was very effective. But he followed that performance off he followed that up with 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals, which was actually in the loss against Toronto. So still a very impactful game. His efficiency wasn't as high as the other two, but still an effective game. He was one of Atlanta's better defensive players. He's always been one of Atlanta's better transition defenders, and that's something that Toronto really kills Atlanta in. I mean, Toronto gets out and running, and Atlanta isn't great in transition defense yet this season. They're working on it. They're getting better game by game, but it's still not exactly where we want it to be. And so after these two performances, Riza Shea capped it off with 19 points, 4 assists, and 2 steals against the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, that first game and that last game, I mean, he just looked awesome. The efficiency was all there on high volume, by the way. He's not someone who gets to the line a whole lot. So, I mean, his scoring is extremely ethical. You can literally have no complaints watching Riza Shea play when he's on. When his shot is off, sometimes can be a little hard to watch because that also at times kind of takes away from his effort on the defensive end. But, I mean, none of this has been a problem in these past 3 games for the Hawks. And I think he has a pretty favorable matchup tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers. So I expect this kind of scoring streak to continue. And hopefully his confidence just stays up and he continues to build on that. I mean, his improvement isn't just showing in the box score. While it's looked impressive, while all of these games have gotten Riza Shea some impressive numbers and definitely helping his scoring and rebounding averages on the season, and especially the efficiency averages. But that's not all that has come as a positive from these few games. It's evident in his decision making and defense that he is taking an overall leap in his game from his rookie season. His timing in some of these passing lanes, his ability to switch onto guards and defend really all positions, and his improved confidence shooting off the dribble have all been major bright spots. Coach Snyder actually mentioned that the young forward's work ethic is off the charts, and it's clear that he's adjusting to a bigger role with so many veterans sidelined. I mean, legit. He's been someone who he kind of dealt with a little bit of an ankle injury in the beginning of the season, but other than that, he's been pretty durable. I mean, he's been playing decent minutes every night, not exactly as many minutes as we kind of been wanting to see from him, but those minutes are growing with all of these guys out. I mean, Quinn Snyder, I know he doesn't like to comment on rotations and stuff like that, but he kind of has no choice other than to play Riza Shea about 30 minutes a night, especially he did the other night against the Toronto Raptors, and his minutes kind of went down in the second night of a back-to-back against the Lakers, but he was still effective, and Quinn kind of let him go out there and cook and do the things that he does that impact the game very well. If this trend continues, I mean, Zachary Riza Shea, we're looking at him as one of the most impactful young forwards in the entire NBA. Definitely one of the most underrated. I mean, the fact that he was the number 1 overall pick and had a very good, efficient rookie season and was on a team that was, kind of contending for the playoffs. They weren't all the way there. They actually lost in the play-in, but they were kind of a playoff team all year before Jalen Johnson went down. If he didn't go down, they would have been a playoff team. So the fact that Riza Shea just really is kind of ignored by the media is a little ridiculous, and I want to bring some light to that. And I want to bring some light to the way he has been playing because no one's talking about it, but he's been awesome. So shout out to Zachary Riza Shea. Hope you go ahead and continue. If you're watching this, because I learned that media day that some of the players do watch this channel. I know my guy Vít Krejci, maybe he's watching. I mean, he shouted out the channel specifically. So shout out to y'all, man. Y'all are playing great. I mean, Vít was another guy against the Los Angeles Lakers that had 17 points, and he was just really effective off the bench. Everyone was playing super well in that game, and hopefully that trend continues tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers. And Zachary Riza Shea, bringing it back to that before we get a little too off topic. He's developing into an essential part of Atlanta's long-term core and definitely one of the more underrated young forwards in the entire NBA. So to wrap things up, it has been an up-and-down week for the Atlanta Hawks. But, 2 wins in the last 3 games. I mean, I can't really complain, especially considering the injury report. The little update on Jalen that I promised you guys, we haven't gotten any sort of real news, but I do think them holding him out during the game against the Lakers on the second night of a back-to-back was a little bit precautionary. It was a quad injury instead of an ankle injury, which actually is very good news. That doesn't usually sound like very good news, but it is good news because, if it was a real kind of ankle sprain, which is what we kind of thought it was at first, he would be sidelined for a longer time. So I do think this was a little bit precautionary, and I do think he'll try to give it a go tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers, but we won't necessarily know. We don't know the official news at the time of this recording, but yeah, that's going to do it. If it's been an up and down week for the Hawks, they dropped a tough one to Toronto, but they bounced back, right back against the Los Angeles Lakers, and 2-1 in the last few games. Great stuff from the Hawks. Jalen Johnson continues to show growth as a playmaker and lead offensive generator in the absence of Trae Young. My guy Zachary Rizachet is emerging from his early season slump, and he's looking like a very impactful two-way forward who's looking to make an immediate leap in his second year. And young guys like Mohamed Gay and Dyson Daniels and Asa Newell, they're proving their worth when the team needs them most. So the road ahead is not going to be easy, especially with Trae Young still recovering from that right MCL sprain. But if this past week really showed us anything, it's that the Hawks still have the depth and resilience to compete with anyone. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be putting out videos every single day, keep you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. Let me know down below. What were your thoughts on the Hawks' loss to the Raptors? Jalen Johnson's play as Atlanta's #1 option, and your thoughts on his potential injury. What were your thoughts on Atlanta's win against the Los Angeles Lakers, the very important and impressive win against the Western Conference team where, the Hawks shut down Luka and they were chanting, "Luka's crying." Just a great night, awesome night. But also, what are your thoughts on Zachary Rizachet's recent play and overall impact on the game in his second year and, kind of getting out of that early season slump? But anyways, thank you guys for watching once again. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I will see you guys next time.